All right, welcome everyone to section 2 of the SLAM program that we're doing together. How did everyone do this week? Was it obviously there was 2 components to it. There was the pre-listing packet and then a premium marketing strategy. Just to start things off, does anyone want to chime in with their general impression of this this section? Was it something that you actually were a little surprised about, and when viewing your business through the lens of potentially incorporating this, is it something that you actually found worthwhile?
I liked the idea of having something as a pre-listing, but I personally I don't think I have time for that. When I go from getting a phone call to having to be ready, for that listing presentation, I feel like because it's just me, I don't have a team, I don't have an assistant. I don't know that I can do that. Even if I had it all put together. But the other thing is I watched the video first and then I downloaded the documents,
Yeah.
and I was like, they're blank. It's a blank PowerPoint presentation with his colors on it. I was like, oh, I thought it was gonna have the checklist and I could just amend it. I don't know if maybe I had the wrong document, but
Yeah, because the version here, let me share my screen real quick. Because I was able to, when I um did the download of the PowerPoint. So this is what I was able to see.
See, I'm like you, Jennifer. It was blank.
oh yeah, I didn't get any of that.
I didn't need it. It was a blank slate.
Okay, so
I would have been much more excited to see that because I was like, well, shoot, I have to start from scratch.
Basically, your background, just put your stuff on. That's
Yeah, it was just the blue and the green, and then it had like places to put things.
okay,
So if
so
you could share that with us, that would be great. I
yeah,
don't know if anyone else.
I will email out both the PowerPoint version. I did not check the Google Slides version. Maybe that was the one that was blank.
No, mine was the PowerPoint one.
Yeah, it's the PowerPoint on the side. They give you 2 things to,
Yeah.
next to that's where
Mhm.
it's on it is blank. Where did you get that from?
I mean, this was from the website. So yeah, let me switch over to
Is there
the
any way to look
other.
at that now or no?
Yeah. So I got it from right here, the pre-listing packet right here. That was the link that took me to it downloaded the PowerPoint, which is what I just showed you when I opened it up.
Well, mine.
Yeah,
had
that's
two.
same thing I did.
Yeah, but mine only had 2 things under there.
Okay, well now when you get to the next section, the pre-listing process, you have the links here with the video. Now, oh wait, but yeah, that also has 4. So I'm not sure. Regardless, I definitely will email out company-wide the PowerPoint presentation with yeah, all the slides or all the content filled in. But now, I mean, it is something that because I did want to go through it today a little bit, just because I know for me and my business, this doesn't totally align with my brand, but I do my business a little bit different than some others. This is for those who really want to embrace a professional real estate operation, which has been demonstrated to be so successful for so many agents. That's why we are doing this whole SLAM um, system, is because the more professional stuff you integrate into your business, like this pre-listing packet or any of the other stuff we've been learning, the greater chance of success that you will have in these professional systems. Any thoughts so far, or do you want to just dive into what the content was?
I would like to see what you saw a little bit anyway, so we have a snapshot of it.
Yeah.
Before you.
So yeah, so I'll share screen with the actual presentation. So let me zoom in a little bit. So yeah, this first page, I mean, in theory, you're sending this to the potential client and asking them to electronically sign, receipt of this thing. Again, very professional in approach. If that is what you're going for with your own business branding, if you want to be that professional agent, this upfront tells them, hey, you are a real estate professional, you do things at a high level. Here's a package that you're sending them. They need to sign just acknowledging receipt of it. The second page, just a simple marketing piece that, selling homes faster for more money, a introductory letter about you and what this packet is. Then you have a letter from a lender, which is an interesting choice given that it's a listing package, but you're incorporating the fact that you have a lender that you have a personal connection with who's on your team, quote unquote. And the advantages from even being a listing agent to have that relationship with a lender, because then with any leads that come in from potential buyers for the home, you have a lender on your side who can help verify if they're pre-approved, that sort of thing. That's the value add from the seller's perspective. Now, this right here was my first indication that I don't personally align my business to this concept. Because yeah, this is a checklist that you provide to the sellers to give them homework in order for you to then be able to easily list their home when you show up on the listing appointment. And to me, yes, this screams professional, that you're putting responsibility on the sellers to get certain things ahead of time, but I prefer a more easygoing approach to real estate, where I don't want my sellers to feel anxiety like, oh my God, we have to find our original and last title policy. For a seller, if I was a seller and I received this would stress me out if I all of a sudden had to, do this checklist just to do the listing appointment. So that's my first impression of a sheet like this. Is there anyone though who wants to provide the other side and indicate that they actually may utilize a seller's homework sheet like this?
I didn't call it seller's homework, but when I first came here 7 years ago, a realtor here gave me something similar to that. It's not called homework, but it's basically getting ready for the appointment. You send this out ahead of time to people. And I used it. I used it for the first 3 or 4 appointments, and not one person did it.
Okay.
I mean, they just almost ignored it. They didn't do it.
Okay.
So, and then, like you said, I think it's like asking overlord before you've even built a relationship with these people. You got them doing all, leaving that after the listing appointment, that's one thing, but ahead of time is,
I mean, I'm also just in general, the way I do my business, I don't want to ask more of my sellers than what is absolutely necessary. And so the title policy, for example, I don't think I have ever had a client who has ever needed to provide the title policy. That's why we have Select Title to track that down. So for me to task my clients with something that deep down I don't actually think is needed for this process to work, that's my hesitation. But I mean, it does convey that these are, your stuff, what is potentially, in theory, some ways maybe going to be needed in some situations. And so it's good for the sellers to be aware up front of these items that may be needed in some situations.
I feel like this might be, for me personally, I might prefer to put this in after they sign the contract with me and
Okay.
then give them, okay, these are the things that, here's your homework. Get your house clean, look for your mortgage paperwork, look for your, and again, I don't need their last tax bill. I can get that online. I don't, there's a ton of stuff that I wouldn't need off of this. Like copy of personal holiday and Christmas mailing list. I don't want that, right? So there's a ton of, but I do kind of like the idea of maybe giving them a homework assignment after they sign the contract with me to, especially Washtenaw County, right? We need to work on well and septic, inspections, or, I might maybe like it after.
The way that I would want to approach this, if I were to actually go through this list and identify, okay, these are the items that I'm actually going to ask from my clients. So like the average utilities, that is one that sometimes it is a request from buyers. In the feedback from a showing, the agent may ask, do we happen to know what the average utility cost is for the home? And typically I'm reactive in that regard of if it's asked by the buyer's agent, then I reach out to my sellers and I ask them to try to calculate it and provide it at that point. Because I wouldn't want to ask it of every seller when it's only going to be something that may be needed 20% of the time. But if I am going to ask it of people, then I want to know that I'm actually going to use it 100% of the time. So if I ask them for the average utilities and they provide it to me with the listing, then in the agent remarks, I would consider actually providing that information up front, be proactive with providing it, since it's something that I put on the sellers to do for me. That's just my thoughts. I don't want to give the sellers work that isn't necessary unless it's going to be work that I will use even if it wasn't necessary. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Larry.
my pre-listing package, it's more customizable, per the listing. So, if it's more of a, past client, past referral, they know me, so they don't get the full list. And my lists are a lot, again, I don't want to overwhelm them, but my list is more based on if they're a new person, here's what you can expect, what we're gonna talk about. And, and I'm gonna have like their name and address or email and phone numbers to verify, that kind of stuff. But again, the association, contact information. Here's stuff that you might want to get ready, in case you decide you want to list. If not, no big deal, but it's more of a, soft, it's not so much information, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I typically, when I'm with sellers, I talk about homework. But it's not just these kind of things, it's about getting their house ready, making it a product versus a home. So you could infiltrate some of these key things as part of that.
Right.
Rather than having a list of all this busy work.
Right.
Yeah, you don't, right.
You know, like you're gonna want
Well,
Right.
get the magnets off the refrigerator and have a list of those kinds of things.
The things that definitely will be used, like, decluttering the house,
3 photo shoots, make
Yeah.
sure the toilet seats are down, no dogs.
that's not wasted effort
Right.
on their part.
And then go through this check mark, maybe grab a couple of those.
Yeah.
And
And, things like asking, if they have an alarm code, that's not wasted effort.
No.
Anything that is, not going to be wasted effort on their part, totally, I think it's a good idea to ask the sellers to do upfront. My hesitation is things that could turn out to be for naught.
I mean, like you said, some of it is you can wait until after it's listed about asking about, talking about decluttering and stuff. That's stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because they get overwhelmed. You can talk to them and they're gonna forget half the stuff you talked to them about. So having that list afterwards of the other stuff I think is important.
yeah.
All right, so let's jump ahead then to what I think was actually the most useful aspect of this section, which is this complete seller's guide. And I found it to be useful not because I would actually send this to a potential client in advance on a pre-listing thing, but this is a great audit of your own business to see, okay, here's 40 questions. If somebody were to pose any of these questions to you, how would you respond? Do you actually have a good answer to any of these 40 questions over these couple pages here? Now, some of the questions are less quality than others. So, okay. And that's where also, it's a good thing this is able to be edited, because I also just noticed some typos in this thing, but that's just the pedantic in me. But yeah, so being able to ask, if somebody were to ask you if you're a full-time realtor, that's an important question to be able to answer. Do you have a team? And okay, do you have a written, traditional, and electronic marketing plan specifically designed to sell my type and style of property? That is so picky. I mean, to have a written marketing plan specific to this home style, like, the odds of an agent honestly being able to answer that with a yes is kind of difficult. It's because there's a lot of different styles of home. And so to have a written plan that can be said to say, hey, well, this plan here is about this type of home. Other types, I have a whole bunch of different plans.
Love that though. I think that's something that we maybe should do.
Well, no,
So,
yeah.
I think that's a good thing to do, and then it doesn't have to be real specific. It could be single family versus lakefront versus condo versus attached versus detached, whatever.
Yeah.
Co-op versus.
And that's why I did view this seller's guide questionnaire as useful, because yes, I don't think I would ever be able to achieve number 4 with a yes, but it would be aspirational to be able to do so. And so if I viewed it as something I want to say yes to, then that gives me an agenda moving forward. When I have free time in the coming weeks, I should work to turn this question into a yes answer for me. And so with a whole bunch of these, so just to point out one of the typos here is they use the word mediums a couple times, which I think only applies to psychics if you're going in the plural, but it should be media. But then you have, because a lot of this is about lead capture and working those potential buyers to have them be able to be purchasing the home that you're trying to list. That's what a lot of these questions were about, which is a very good mindset to have and decide, okay, yes, can that be part of my business of, if I list a house, what is my plan to actually turn whatever leads that may come from it, turn them into true buyers for that specific house, not trying to capture them so I can sell them some other house as a client, but what is the clear method I have defined to have them purchase the house that I'm listing. So did anybody go through this list and notice anything that they thought were?
I never saw it on this.
I think it's too much to give to us.
Oh, I would never give this list to a
That is a
seller.
talking point for authority. You like that one about the different points. And rather than saying I have one, you say, well, you realize you market things differently. A realtor, I will market them for you. It's quite different than, I like that.
But yeah, do you employ a tracking system on what marketing strategies are working? So, it's a good kernel of a question to decide, okay, in my business, here I'm doing these different marketing strategies. Have I actually taken a moment to evaluate that, to to use any sort of mechanism to help me identify, is this marketing strategy working? Like if I'm advertising in the real estate book, am I just paying the money and doing it, or do I get any sort of feedback system where I'm then truly analyzing, yeah, this was worth the expenditure and the exposure, and then be able to decide, okay, that's not the worthwhile marketing, and instead I should go this route with boosting Facebook posts. Because the tracking system there helps me identify that that is a strategy that is more successful. Being able to have something like that in your business and then be able to talk about it when you're on a listing appointment, that definitely conveys the professionalism that, you know, many agents should be seeking to achieve. And so, you know, go through these, and so yeah, if you hadn't had a chance yet to see them, I will send it out. You know, and yeah, it's 40 questions. If you can confidently answer all 40 of these the way that you would ideally want to answer them, then I mean, you have a really strong business, in my opinion. And so that's what I really liked about this section, is it's just the opportunity to grade yourself by using this questionnaire. Because I mean, yeah, they put it in here as the thing to have the clients ask anybody who's going on a listing appointment. I know I'd be terrified if I walked in and, you know, I was going on a listing appointment and the clients pulled out this, I'd stumble through these questions. I would not have a good response to most of them. And I'd then try to, you know, have to talk my way out of as to why these questions shouldn't matter.
Jordan, I like what you said. It's aspirational for us to build a business on that.
Yeah.
Those principles.
Yes.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
That's the value of it.
And so, yeah, I mean, that was my big takeaway from this whole PowerPoint presentation. You know, these 20 slides, this questionnaire is, because again, I don't think personally I'm going to incorporate a pre-listing package into my system. But even if I don't want to use this pre-listing package, I can still take away some key elements from what's in here to still improve my business. Anyone on Zoom, like the other offices or Zoom people, want to chime in? All right. So moving on then to the rest of the pre-listing packet, there was another aspect to it that I do want to improve my own business on, which is identifying exactly my team beyond just the agents themselves on my team. So yeah, so we have the agent name and team, but once you get to the B team, that's where truly having those relationships established, where you could provide a list like this to your clients, I do think that it's not a bad practice at all to be able to tell people like, hey, you know, yeah, here's 2 cleaning companies that I have utilized in the past and I find are good. You know, if we end up needing any electrical services from an inspection problem, you know, here's somebody that I vouch for as a good electrician. You know, going through and being able to identify for your own business in these categories who you would recommend for any of these, I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, it's something that when the time comes, it's better to already know who you want to use rather than sending out that lone wolf message to everybody in the office saying, hey, I need somebody, you know, to assist with landscaping. Does anybody have any recommendations? Try to compile that ahead of time, because it does show then first and foremost that you can actually properly vet the people that you're about to give their contact information to a client. You can know ahead of time, yeah, these are worthwhile names to be referring out. And to have a sheet like this, I would include it in the listing presentation rather than a pre-listing. Then it's showing that yes, you come with all the services and you're really providing value that way, that it is a whole team aspect. And so even if you are just an agent, the only agent, and you don't have a team of like buyers agents or admins, you still have a team, the B team, quote unquote, of the additional real estate related services that may be important during this transaction process.
I had Cora make for me a document that's like a single PowerPoint slide that has all the office staff in it. So it has like the receptionist, the closing department, Joe DeCrube, Nicole, Jared, I think you're on there. So it's like a single page. So for me, because I'm independent agent, I don't have a team. I boast that I'm an independent agent and that they'll always work with me, and they're not going to get, a buyer's agent or a listing agent. Like anytime they call, it's always me, because that's my stick, right? But what then I sort of use as my B team is I have a picture in my listing presentation of all of the office staff. And I feel like is really helpful, because then I say, listen, but I also have a team that backs me up. My closing department makes sure that I haven't missed any signatures, any initials, every document is complete. They, I have an attorney on staff that if, we have a legal question, I can get advice from him. I have an IT department. If my laptop crashes, I can go to my IT department. So I use all of that to boast me up a little bit higher, because I don't have a team and I want to promote that I don't, but I also want to promote that I have back staff. So if anybody wants that, I certainly would share it, or I'm certain that the back office has it as well.
I think that's awesome to show your value as a single agent, especially if you are in a situation that you're up against a team member, to be able to say, hey, look, I'm going to give you the personalized quality of a single agent one-on-one, but I am backed up by all of these people in my office that have my back and are able to help me out. So I think that's awesome. Good job.
I do too.
Yeah. So let's go back to listing presentation.
Ask one question of the
Yeah.
team. Does everyone here do, like, how do they formally present? Do they use their laptops? How do they use paper? Do they do it right away? How long does the listing last? Is it sort of like almost a training kind of thing? What's the overall feel of how you interact
So
with people?
that is also part of what we are going to be getting to, I believe, having, so the listing appointment itself
Oh, okay.
is section 3. So you
Alright,
come in
okay.
2 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's where I've not done this class yet, so I don't know what's, I just going based
Okay.
on the title alone. That's what makes me believe that's where we're going to next, is the actual, when you're sitting down and doing the listing presentation. But yeah, and then let's see here, let's finish out this. Although actually I did want to hop back, because Kathy, you had mentioned some of the kind of less valuable questions. And in my notes I did find some that I thought one was rather amusing. Wait a minute. Why is it? Oh yeah, okay. And yeah, that's where the numbers start over, which is strange as well. These are 21 and 15. But this one here, do you have a permanent email address? Hopefully everyone on this Zoom can at least answer yes to one of these 40 questions, because the idea that you may not. The one though that would be absurd. How many website portals will my property be included on? You can't give a number to that, because once it's out there on the MLS, it spreads to every website and, in online. Like, so, that's where some of these questions,
But how would you answer that?
I
You
would,
wouldn't say I can't answer that.
no,
but
I
how
would
you
say
answer it?
that, in reality, agents are pretty much, homogenous in terms of when we put something on the MLS, the system then feeds from the MLS to all these different websites out there. So all of the public-facing websites that potential buyers will look for your home on, you know, and they can find other homes, your home will be included on it. Any agent who is trying to tell you that they can get your listing to appear on even more websites is almost certainly, you know, just puffing themselves up and misrepresenting, because we're all beholden to the same MLS system and constraints. Now what we can do is have your listing reach more agents directly through our internal network, because if you hire us, RE/MAX Platinum is such a great company with so many agents that we use our email system in order to notify our fellow coworkers, which we're the largest office in the county. We can get your listing in front of more agents directly. And so that's why you should hire me as a RE/MAX Platinum agent. But as far as the public-facing websites, those pretty much all agents are getting to the same websites because it comes from the
From
MLS.
the MLS system feed.
Yeah, that's how I would handle that question of kind of pointing out the question itself is garbage, still then leaning on the premise of it, which is you're trying to get more exposure, and we can do that because of RE/MAX Platinum. But it's not through website portals, because you know homes.com is going to pick up every listing. So you know, whether you list with me or you know, that EXP agent.
I was just asking, some presentations, many presentations that I've seen online, the realtor presentations, they have that, they have the fact that you're going to be over all of the, you know, they have that, they could use that point when.
And in the video, for the premium marketing plan, at one point they showed an image in the
Yeah.
video with all the different,
We have that.
yeah,
same
sprawling, yeah, and so, you know, you could just point to that as,
image.
you know, as an image to utilize for explaining how it feeds out everywhere. But yeah, so getting past the B team, which is something that is now on my agenda to try to identify, yeah, for each of these items, do I have somebody that I would actually want?
Right.
And so just printing out this list, obviously not with these people's names and phone numbers on it, but printing out the list with no names and phone numbers, and then as you can, you just fill it out, keep it posted on the wall of your office or whatever, or your cubicle, then yeah, you can just have your own address book basically, or contact list for these different services, which could be helpful. Yeah, find us online, then so finishing up with this section of, you know, how the process works. Some of it was, did anybody actually read this whole thing? Am I, like, out of curiosity, since I know, you know, most of the agents who have spoken up so far said that they didn't even, you know, weren't even able to see the content. Because the for sellers, so you know how we work, I mean, it's highlighting all the different components of the listing process. So starting with the photos, then uploading to the internet, printing brochures and keeping them at the house. You know, how feedback is handled, lead capturing, all sorts of things. But it's, oh, okay. Again, why it's very, very important. You never want to just take one of these pre-made packages and just decide, okay, this is what I'm going with, without reading it and understanding. There was one thing in here that I just was gobsmacked by. Let me zoom in a bit. Oh. Price changes. So if you do a price change, according to this package, doing a price change automatically extends the listing contract. So if you get a 6-month listing contract and 3 months in, they agree to a price change. According to this package, they're agreeing to extend the listing contract for another 3 months. So it's, a 6-month listing contract at what, at each price that they do, which that's not how I operate my business. And so that's why it's important to know, if you're going to use a pre-made marketing piece like this, read it and decide if it's actually something you want to incorporate, because that would be quite the embarrassment if you had presented this to a client and they had asked you about it. Like, wait a minute, does this mean, if 2 months in, we drop the price 10,000, we now are under contract another 2 months with you, because of that price drop? So just, that one of those things that you want to make sure when you're going through to be aware of what's in something that you did not create from scratch yourself. And then lastly, I'm curious if anyone actually does a cancellation policy where, if after 30 days, and that's where you get typos in here, which is weird, this agreement is canceled by the property owner, a cancellation fee of blank will be payable to the agent. Again, wouldn't be payable to the agent, be payable to the broker. Does anybody actually use a cancellation fee in their listing contracts? I can't imagine that's and I would never personally, but here it's part of the SLAM program, is something to consider. So I just wanted to point that out.
I've charged for photos.
Yeah, fair
I've
enough.
done that when I've had money come out of my own pocket, for stuff, that's usually when I have a conversation about that stuff.
And that's fair. And then you can also let them know, like, hey, you will get ownership of the photos, but I'm requiring that, in order to release the contract, that you just reimburse me for the cost of doing those photos. All right, so that was the entirety of the pre-listing. Now let's switch over to the premium marketing. Obviously we don't need to actually watch the video together or anything, but just curious what people's thoughts were with this premium marketing plan video. Was there anything that you took away from it as aspects that you now want to incorporate, and then be able to highlight when during the next section we get to actually being on the listing appointment? Anything from a premium marketing plan that you're like, okay, I'm not currently doing that, but it is something that I want to do. Any thoughts? Because the one of the simple ones that, okay, a individual listing website. We have the ability through KV Core to create just a unique URL for our listing if we get a new listing. And that is something then that if we incorporate into our repertoire, being able to tell a potential seller, potential client, like, hey, you list with me, you're going to get just a website solely dedicated to your property, just a single page URL for your home that you can share, and it just will present it nicely. I think that's a worthwhile thing to consider for a marketing aspect, because it's not a bad thing to have a link that you can share on social media that doesn't take them to a whole universe of other homes, but just your listing, almost like a digital flyer. I like that one. So that's one that I want to consider figuring out how to best utilize with my business. Anyone else have any things like that from that video?
I don't know if it's from the video so much, but the list of, getting the like attorneys and heating, cooling guys and all that, that's, I lost track of a lot of my contractors. They were either out of business, retired. So, it kind of put me back into, okay, I gotta make get out there and get some new, I contacted some of them are still in the business, and, it reminded me that one thing I like doing is, as I grew the group, we met once a month, downtown Brighton for, beverages, and we kind of networked, and it was amazing how the referrals just by organically passed from that, and it just grew naturally, and I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah. I agree totally. Anyone else wanna contribute? It was passed, yeah, that video.
Go back, and I intend to actually go back and listen to it again, because it was just. Almost too much to comprehend.
Well, and because, I mean, I'm approaching this whole course with the concept of, okay, I know it's not 100% what I'm going to do. Just the way I do my own business, especially now that, I mean, my business is kind of put on the sideline. I'm not able to fully embrace this concept, but you know, that regardless, even if I'm 90% of it not going to utilize, to be able to find that 10% that's like, yeah, I can do that. I see the value. I want to do that. And so then if I start doing it, that alone makes it worthwhile for me to be doing this whole course just to find that 10%. I'm not putting the expectation on anyone to fully adopt the SLAM system 100%, you know, with each of these components, but just going through it and deciding, yes, that does align with my business, that does not, that's fine that it doesn't, that's great that it does, and then just improving where you can. That's the importance, is we're doing this so we can all improve our business a little bit. So that's how I'm doing this, and if somebody is doing it, you know, gung-ho 100%, that's awesome, but I just know that I personally can't do that, and I wouldn't put the expectation on anyone else to be doing it 100%.
I think for me, I'm taking those tidbits and adapting it to me. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna do that full pre-listing packet, but I really like the idea of being more professional and maybe doing that in a KV Core email. So I would have a pre-generated email in KV Core, which I really need to learn more about. But so that when I have that, you know, that pre-listing, when I get an appointment, then I send them some basic information about myself, some information about my team, you know, confirming my appointment time, those kinds of things, and sort of maybe do it more as a single email with a couple of pictures or something like that. I think that is more my style than having them sign something. Or I also feel like people are really busy, and most people, if I send them a PowerPoint presentation of 12 slideshows or slides, they're not going to even open it and look at it. Maybe if it was a video, they might watch a video, but I cannot imagine that someone would do that. And actually, as I just said that, a pre-listing video would be even better, but I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I like the idea.
Yeah. And just so you know, something that we are currently working on, but yet don't have total ability. If you are interested in doing videos and things like that, you know, we are building upstairs at the Brighton office, a studio that you know, in the coming months at some point, want to be able to offer to agents as a recording, you know, place for if you want to do a pre-listing video. Yeah, it's a good location to do it. So that is something that we're working on as the development team here.
And Sherry, have you guys at the Vagnetti team ever done any kind of pre-listing things?
Has a plan in place, and you know, I've joined him many times on his listing appointments. But obviously for myself, I would reevaluate how I'd want to present myself, because we're on a team now, but we have very different styles of working with clients and utilizing the sellability of their home. What I will say is in the beginning, back in the pre-listing process, one thing that really stuck out to me was the job resumes and how we need to get away from the accolades of ourselves and tell our sellers more what we can do for them. And I feel like that marketing plan would be a really good prelude to that as well. You know, kind of letting them know everything that you're going to be able to do for them and then giving them documentation of exactly what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, yeah, we're nearing like the hour mark that I try to keep this to. And we covered all of the stuff from section 2. Looking ahead, yeah, we have section 3, which is I'm interpreting here, it's the actual listing appointment itself. And so, that's what we'll be meeting up to discuss in 2 weeks from today, which would be February 16th, if my math is correct. So before we end it, is there anything else that people wanted to chime in with about section 2, or even going back to section 1? Have you been doing that daily worksheet where you're trying to get to the 63 points each day? Is anyone still doing that and has
That has helped me
successfully?
immensely.
It has helped you?
It has helped me. I'm not making 61,
Yeah,
but the consciousness, I found myself yesterday because I didn't do any of it. And I said, dang, to myself.
Yeah.
Internally.
yeah,
Dang, I didn't get any points today. I just let that day go. So I acted the conscientiousness because I kept saying to myself, I don't know if Rob said this last week or when we met, but I think you did, but I was busy, so, because I had sold a house, I had some other stuff going on, and I got so busy with that I didn't do my prospecting my points.
yeah,
And so I remember Rob said about, what happens when when you get paid on these and you're waiting for the others. So it's helped me. It's just given me a consciousness. I'm not actually, it's just made me conscious of it,
Right.
really conscious of it.
and that's yeah. You don't have to do it 100% like full bore, fully filling it out, but just taking that
Exactly. Realizing
concept,
what can I do today? Where can I get points today?
yeah,
So
figuring out how to
helped me a lot.
incorporate this system into your style.
Motivated me.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Same thing with the budget. So many listings or so many transactions per year.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking to myself, am I on? Oh man, I'm on track, and that kind of thing. So it just keeps you. I don't know how long this will last. It's January.
well, but no,
Been 2 weeks in January, guys.
you build habits. It's about building those habits over time, and hopefully then, something sticks. So that way then 6 months from now, you're still doing certain things because you did this SLAM course that, had you not taken the SLAM course 6 months from now, what would you be doing a little bit less well, basically? Rob, you want to chime in?
I just wanted to do a shameless plug for the 2-hour workday, which kind of flows with that whole 61 point thing. We're doing it down in Ann Arbor. I was trying to pull it up on my calendar to make sure I told you guys the dates. I don't remember off the top of my head.
It is the 19th, I believe.
Okay. The 2-hour workday is a class that is similar to the points, but it's also based on getting you back to the perspective of like starting with what's most important and then working your way down the pyramid so that you're spending the amount of time you should in the right places. And that, I have the perspective of that if you're not working at least 2 hours a day on things that isn't showing houses and stuff, you don't have a career, you have a hobby. And we're gonna focus on that. So that's a good class to attend if you guys can.
I 100% agree. And so, that is Monday, the 19th down
At 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Monday the 19th at 10 a.m.
And we're
And
gonna
Will that be available on Zoom?
we're working on doing that. I need a little bit of assistance. We don't have all the same tech down here, but we're working on getting that on Zoom as well.
Yeah, because
We'll
Ann
at
Arbor,
least try to record it.
it's going to get recorded. But you can see currently Ann Arbor's camera and all that. It's not like here at Brighton where we have the auditorium that's a little bit easier to present and broadcast and everything. So it's just a matter of that improving the connectedness and technology down in the Ann Arbor office as well. So that way yeah.
I see Brent in the background. You got us taken care of, Brent? You're gonna get us on Zoom for these out of area classes?
Plan.
You gotta repeat that.
Oh, yes, I'm definitely gonna try. That's the plan. And everybody to have the same capabilities, so everyone can share everything. We're all a team, so it makes more sense to do it that way.
It was Providence that Brent walked in right when you guys were talking about that.
Well, wonderful. Well, I'm going to wrap this up then. I want to thank everyone for showing up today. And then, yeah, in 2 weeks, we'll do it again, and we'll be discussing the actual listing appointment itself. And you know, some of the questions that you were talking about earlier, Kathy, about, you know, the different tactics, yeah, style, approach, and all that. And you know, the whole idea is we're making marginal improvements to what we have been doing in the past. We're going to be doing it a little bit better going forward because of this program. So thank you all for participating and joining today. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Hi, guys.